Welcome to the Beyond Cinema and Bio.com studio up here at TIFF. Marah Strauch, Eric Bruggemann. Firstly, congratulations on having the film here. Marah, I know for you, obviously, it's a change of pace artistically, being able to express yourself in this way, feature-length documentary. For you, having that sort of space of time cinematically, what did that kind of afford you? What did you like being able to experiment on this canvas?
I really like to be able to show my characters over kind of an expanse of time, and I think that was a really nice thing to have the time to really get to know these people particularly, which couldn't have been done in a shorter way. And I also liked, this is just more about the theatrical experience, but I really like to be able to kind of fill up that space of the cinema. And I saw the film for the first time in a theater last night, so that was really nice to see it in that venue, and it felt right.
Yeah. When you talk about these people, just explain a little bit about who you're speaking about and how you earned the trust that enabled you to get that exclusive kind of rights to that archive footage.
Well, the story of my film is a husband and wife couple that really started the sport of base jumping, and or the activity of base jumping, I like to call it, rather, because that's how Carl explained it. And I think the main characters in the film are Carl and Jean Banish, and I spent a really long time getting to know Jean, but I would say I spent a really long time also getting to know Carl, who is no longer with us, but I definitely spent a lot of time going through his material, and in that process really getting Jean to open up about that time in her life, which was actually quite a long time ago. So
what was your first awareness of them or of him?
My uncle was a base jumper, so I found a big box of films, and I found some footage that was on a VHS tape, and I popped in, and I was at my dad's house, and I was like, what is this? And I was making installation art at the time, and I was like, wow, this movement is really, like, what is this? Could I project it? What could I do with this? It's fantastic, and I basically just followed a lot of hunches and intuitions, and I basically made it to Jean Banish, and it was, it was like 8 years ago, so it was a really long process, and it was just a lot of footage too.
Yeah, Eric, a lot of footage, obviously, for people that are editorially inclined, and just tackling that amount of footage and going through the archives. How do you at what point in the process did you come on board?
Well, I was basically on board from the beginning. Marah and I were friends. She had been doing some more experimental, more installation pieces, and I was sort of helping or working a little bit with her on that. And so when she got excited about this sort of cardboard box full of amazing footage that she found, we looked at it together, and there was some 16 millimeter, and we actually just put up a bed sheet, just projected it, and it was just very mysterious, clandestine, kind of beautiful, interesting, fascinating world, base jumping. And so it just slowly grew over time, and we kind of just organically were kind of trying to make this film. I as a producer, Marah directing, and then we're both editors. And so in terms of the mountain of material, Marah really spent years in the archive going through countless cabinets and boxes and folders and shelves, and really and discovering the story along the way as well. And so it was a massive undertaking, and sort of us together looking at what Marah was discovering. And Marah definitely had pretty strong reactions to areas of focus, and it was more of a dialogue between us in terms of how we were going to tell the story, and distill. The film could have been not 20, but it could have been 10 hours long, really. It was really about what are the key chapters that tell a story that feels like a complete story, even though you're having to skip a lot. And Marah had a really great take on what to focus on, and then at that point there would be sort of a collaboration, both of us as editors, in terms of the execution.
So two things. What was the key visual for each of you, in terms of, if you just have one visual that pops into your head as being that moment that captured your imagination in that way, what is it? What is it for you when you think about the film? What's the first image?
The image, I don't even know if it would be, I think, and it's funny because the base jumping is so compelling, but I think the first kind of moment that I really knew it could be an actual film was when I saw the footage of Carl Banish talking, and his enthusiasm and just kind of his energy. So that really was it for me.
Yeah, I mean, jumping off of that, footage of Carl talking, but then even greater discovery in a way was Marah discovered all this audio. Now it wasn't visual, but it was Carl talking in a very personal way, and that was when we really, I think, felt like this film could really flesh itself out the way it needed to be in terms of having Carl's presence and his voice there. And then visually, I mean, I think we both were really in awe of this image of the human form just hanging in the air.
It's kind of
in a sort of surprising setting, not out of an airplane, but next to a building or next to a mountain. There's just something so poetic and powerful about that sort of silhouette image of a human form.
And it was not the way that you're used to seeing it, because you look at YouTube and it's like all like crazy camera crap, and this is really filmmaking. And Carl was a filmmaker, so you can see that in his work.
Has his ability and that passion for what he was doing rubbed off on you guys at all? Have you, as a result, tried jumping yourselves or tried recreating some sort of experience? Or otherwise, what is it in your world that you consider to be the equivalent kind of inspirational action that may have been prompted by this?
I mean, I've been skydiving a few times. I think that it's a great experience. I think it's something that anyone could, if they wanted to do it, could do it. I think it's very exciting. I don't think I'm necessarily somebody who's prone to base jumping, but I don't think that means that I can't learn lessons from that in my own life. I think just the awareness and the presence of mind that you need to base jump or skydive or do any of these activities that these people in my film are doing really is something that I've learned in my own life to take forth. So it's not just about like if I'd actually do it. I think, like Carl said, he wants to inspire other people to, in their own lives, do whatever is the equivalent.
So what is that equivalent for you?
Filmmaking.
You feel that risk, that sense of risk?
Yeah, I think filmmaking is, especially independent filmmaking, is one of the most risky things you can do.
Yeah, we risked personal capital big time on this, and it was a real long struggle in terms of getting the partners in place, getting the budget that we thought the film deserved, and we weren't going to do it until we had that level of sort of production power to do this. So that it was a lot of personal risk and a lot of pushing through.
A lot of perseverance, like even the physical elements of making this film. We were shooting on the cliff sides of Norway, so we were hiking up and down the Trollveg, and with giant RA Alexas, and so it was a very physical film to make.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Herzog, and it feels very, in that realm.
Fitzcarraldo.
Yeah, I mean, during watching this film. Making this film, during making this film, the whole time, I was thinking of that boat over the mountain. That was the imagery that kept coming into my head. It was a physical journey to make this film.
So logistically going up and down the cliffs, how did you achieve that?
We had helicopters for some of it, but the initial scouting, sessions were me with my location scout, and very similar to what Carl did, going up to the top of the cliffs, figuring out what angles we were going to shoot from. With the reenactments, obviously, especially the cliff reenactments, we had to go up and location scout, and all of that was done by foot by me and my cinematographer, Nico Polson. So it was quite a endeavor.
If Carl is the father of base jumping, and McConkie is potentially known as the clown prince of base jumping, and there being a bio about McConkie come out, and you say like all these kind of crazy camera angles and things that are popping up in the sort of more extreme sports side of things that are so popular right now. For fans of that extreme sports world coming to see your film. What do you have to say to them in terms of their expectations as to finding out kind of more about the history of the activity?
I think one of the most exciting things about the screening last night was that a number of skydivers and base jumpers came to the screening, and it was almost an emotional, it was very emotionally, it really touched them from a very emotional place, because I think we were showing the activity of base jumping and skydiving in such a positive light. And I think one of the things that I'm really opposed to in terms of kind of the extreme sports genre is that there's a lot of stuff that seems really aggressive about it. I think this film is very, a lot more kind of about the joy, which joy is not a word that you would hear in extreme sports because it seems a little like not macho, but I think this film really is about the joy, and I think people are experiencing that whether they're in quote unquote extreme sports or, you know, surfing or whatever. I think that people will like this film a lot. I think it's going to really resonate with kind of a wide audience, not just base jumpers and skydivers, but really cross over into people who would never do that.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on surviving the journey, the 8 years that it took to bring this to light and being able to share it with audiences.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate your time.